What's up, beautiful people, to another episode of the Pursuit of Destiny podcast. It's me, Rickey Jones Jr., and we also have a guest today. But before I introduce him, all that good stuff, for those that are new to the podcast, this podcast is here to help you to live your best life and give you the keys and the tools and even some tricks on how to do so, from your personal life to your spiritual growth to marriage to business, or whatever components will help you to live life well. We are here and we do some interviews, right? We interview people so their life can help you to live your best life. And out of interviewing people and hearing their lives, you're able to get the keys to overcome the things that you may be dealing with, or to see another perspective to what you may come up against, so that the things that come your way do not overcome you, but you're able to overcome them. So my brother, my friend, JT, J Tobin, Javon, Mr. Thompson, daddy, brother, friend, the man with oh so many names, also DJ Red Tober, okay? A producer, a man of many talents, a man with many abilities. We're here with him today. So first off, how you doing today, great man?
I am doing phenomenal. Thank you for having me on. It's been here before, but this is new.
That's it. Yep, you're right. I had you on for the Father's Day special, right? Being that you are a father of four. And now we get to hear about your story, right? And be able to learn from that. And I even have notes, right? I said to myself, I want you to prepare. And so I have even a outline of how I want this to flow and go. So we're going to hit these points, but more than anything, we'll let your light shine through the life that you've lived, and it's going to help others, right? And so the first question that I want to ask you is, who will your story help?
So my story, and I feel like this is just continue to evolve into what God is really just doing in my life. But I would say my story is for those that are walking down some, I would say, not just unfamiliar territory, but not normal territory. Like I was speaking to a young man yesterday who's 18. He's trying to figure out life and all that. And I told him, I was like, bro, my life started at like 20 when I had my first kid. And so like I started shifting how I had to even grow up as a man quicker. But it's for those individuals that feel like they are walking down, quote unquote, what's not the status quo of life today, where we were trying to train to, hey, after school you got to go to college, then you go into a work field, then you get married, then you have kids. It's the non-traditional life, and it's how God shows up in untraditional ways. And so that would be where my story kind of will, I would say, propel from.
A non-traditional life being propelled and helped from a traditional God. Is that what you said?
You know what? That's what I was trying to say. that puts it in more perspective, because God's never changing. He's gonna help throughout anybody's situation. And sometimes we look at, I encounter a lot of people that may not go the route that they were thinking, or even how their peers or family laid out for them in their eyes. They feel not as much, not as worthy. But it's like, no, God is still the same God. He can still going to be able to move and do things in your life, even though your path is different. And I love Ephesians 2:10.
Okay.
Amplified, that really talks about paths. Like, God predestined paths for us. And so we can't be so singular in our minds of like, this is the only way. God's like, no, I got multiple paths for you to get to your destination and reach your purpose.
No, that's good. That's good. I'm over here taking notes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's even another level at which I'm like, man, let this be impactful, not only for me, but for those that are listening. And so, yeah. I'm writing these notes, and I can share these notes too. But even hearing what you're saying, knowing that you grew up in the church, right? You have a strong background of belief. And even as you spoken already, you talk about the belief that you have, the God that you serve. What was it like growing up in the church? How old were you when you started or realized that you were growing up in the church? And like, what were the different things that you've done while growing up in the church?
So that is crazy. I can remember being here at Revealing Truth Ministries down in
Mm.
Tampa, Florida.
Whoop, whoop.
Uh shout out, shout out.
Yes,
Um
indeed.
I remember it being like my earliest memory is like 3 years old being at the
Wow.
church.
Nice.
And of course, seeing the church transform in so many ways over the last year. That's well, I'm
Mm,
30 now, so that's 27 years of seeing the
mm,
church transform and just
mm,
continue to empower. Um, I think growing up in the church for me really taught me two things.
mm,
One, having a foundation that's not in yourself,
mm,
not trying to be so self-sufficient, which I can definitely get to at a later point, but
mm.
having a foundation and having trust in God, knowing who God is. And then two, it taught me servanthood,
Nice.
learning how to serve others,
Mm-hmm.
and always being there. And that's kind of what my parents, in which uh plug, I need to go back and listen to the other podcasts. But when I talk about my dad a lot, my dad and my mom, they were both, my dad was a technician.
Yeah.
Now I'm the technical director for the ministry.
How
Like
about that? Full
so many
circle in the
parallels,
same
right?
church that
In the
your
same
dad did
church.
tech. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then my mom was in the choir, which
Mm,
I'm a part of the music that's happening in that aspect. So I feel like it's just a real full circle, but just seeing their lives put on display in terms of their servanthood, being at the church where, while I know even with my sisters, like we can see being at the church a lot because we were there a lot as like such a hindrance. And it's like, no, it was when you look back and just reflect, you're like, no, this was a blessing. Like,
yeah.
yes, I didn't do everything that like a typical kid. Like I didn't do all the sports. I did some sports, but I didn't do all the sports because I was so involved in the
Mm,
church. But it
mm-hmm.
was it was there where I was able to create long-term relationships,
Mm-hmm.
like long term. Like one of my
Mm-hmm.
best friends, a few of my best friends to this day, dating back to 3 years old, my friend Trey, like that, I met him at the church. I have another good friend,
Mm,
Benjamin Smith. We
yeah.
met right at the church, which his dad is now the pastor over our Wesley Chapel campus. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's somebody that I also see as another father. And so you're able to build a community that you can lean on. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of people might have like church hurt from that community.
Okay.
But I
That's
was blessed
good.
enough to be in a community that truly cared about you and not your
Mm,
actions. And I think
mm,
that's important. People have to
mm-hmm.
see people for who they are and not the actions that they do, because that's how God
Nice.
sees us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it was a blessing. Some of the things that I did growing up, we was in the youth choir.
Mm,
Uh and so it was a full circle moment because a couple of weekends ago we had the youth choir minister, and it was
mm-hmm.
like, man, I remember being right there on the stage.
Hello. Right.
My mom called me afterwards. She was like, yo, I was crying because like it just brought tears to her eyes from when she was doing it at that
Wow.
time. Um and so being in the youth choir, being in several different musical groups, because at the time I
Mm,
rapped.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
What was your
so
rap name? Hold on, you can't just glaze over that. What was your rap name back then? Everybody had a rap name.
so what's crazy is I still go by it. It was JT. Like it started off
Ah,
as Young JT, because everybody had a young something.
had to,
Uh
or Lil or
or
Young.
Lil. So I was like, I don't like Lil JT, so I like Young JT. So
Respect.
I did the whole Young. Shout out to
Okay.
GZ, because that was my dog back then.
Yeah. Aha.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
had the ad-libs and everything.
You had to have the ad lib. Jeezy was known for him. Jeezy and Gucci. But
Yep.
that we talk
That-
about Young JT right now. Young
wait,
JT.
yeah, Young JT was the rap name, and then
Mm,
I just cut it to straight JT, and that's kind of
okay.
how I had rocked in, and that's where I get really my nickname right now, that
Ah.
most people call me JT, is from
Mm-hmm.
when I was rapping.
Wow.
Uh, and yeah, so
Yeah.
doing that, and then now like being a part of the youth ministry
Mm-hmm.
during high school, I think that was a vital moment as you go through life, even though I ain't gonna say I wasn't wilding still, I was still wilding.
Truth be
But
told.
truth be told, right? But being a part of such a collective ministry where we had, I feel as I look at other people's lives in terms of their journey through church, I really found value in the way that our church really brought value to our youth and made sure that each space as you grow had something for you. And so from back when I was a elementary school where we had a whole zone, like that wasn't heard of. It was so much value placed in it. And it's like, okay, as you look back in your life, it's like, man, okay, so God was really saying that we're valuable, even at this stage. Like there's so much value there. That's about, I'm pretty sure at least almost 100 grand, 200 grand just poured out into that one area. And it's like, as a kid, you don't know that. But as you look back as an adult, it's like, okay, they made emphasis of we're valued. We care about you. We care about your life. And then the lessons that will be been taught during that stage. And it's like, I keep up with even the same teachers that were there. Every time I see them, I speak to them. And it's just knowing that you have a family outside of your immediate family. And that church home family was everything. And I value that to this day, even as my close friends. Most of my close friends are from church. And so it's been more of a bonding of relationships. And I think that's so important why there's so much backlash against church community, that there are positive church communities that are here. Right. Like let's not just talk about the bad ones. Let's talk about the good ones and the ones that are really truly here to foster you as a person and then to help you foster your relationship with God. So it's been a fun experience. High school was fun in terms of I met somebody that you guys probably I hope you get him on at some point. Pastor T. Pastor Trevor is one of the most phenomenal guys that I have encountered in my 30 years of living. He literally takes each person as them and he will invest in you.
That's true.
If you want him to invest in you, he will invest in you. And his ministry is showing now where he is going from just not only a youth group, now he's at high schools, colleges across the country, doing what he does, which is spreading the word of God and showing love. And for the ones that don't know, I mean, it's white at a predominantly black church.
Correct. And you wouldn't know. You wouldn't
know.
Even once you start talking, it doesn't even matter. You don't
it
even
doesn't
see
even
that.
matter.
You don't see it.
It was so cool to see that transition, because I was able to see the transition from youth leaders, which shouts out to Miss DJ, Pastor Adrian. Like they were there and I was close with them. So like the transition was, I didn't know how it was gonna be, if it was gonna be awkward, if I was not gonna like them. Pastor T had brought in the whole staff and was like, all right, let's see what this is. You're trying to fill us out. And I'm looking around the room like they got some Negroes in here. Like I don't know how they gonna do this, but it's some Negroes in here. They be about that life.
They about that life.
They about that life. So how you gonna? But he was able to still captivate everyone, no matter what their journey was. And I was like, okay, so this is somebody that I would like to model out there, like being able to captivate anybody from any journey. And who's
hold
to
on
know
now,
that
hold
my
on.
journey? Okay.
So don't go too far, because now you about to talk. You talking into a point we're gonna get to, which is hearing a calling and walking in your calling. So hold on. Before you get there, right? But I do want to highlight a part that you said, two things where you talked about the zone. And for those that don't know, I want you to like visualize McDonald's play place prior to COVID-19, like McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or Burger King's play place. Like the zone was similar to that inside of a church. Like, wait, what? Where they do that at? Even when I came to Rebellion Truth Ministries the first time and I saw the zone, I'm thinking, wait, y'all have a whole play area, a play place with the balls and all of that stuff for the kids? And they were like, yeah, as if every church had it. No, no. This is the first church I've ever seen have
Right.
a space for youth like that. So shouts out to Revealing Truth Ministries for that. But then even to what I heard out of what you said growing up in the church is that it was beneficial and impactful for you to grow up in a church that had children in mind, that cared about the youth, cared about
Yeah.
the future, had legacy in mind. And so even for those that are listening that may not find themselves in Tampa, Florida, wherever they are, if they're a parent, right? Or they're
Yeah.
an adult and maybe they had church hurt. Okay, it could have been a number of reasons why. However, what you should do or could do as a parent is to have your children in an environment where kids are cared about, where the youth are cared about, where the youth are poured into, and the same amount of investment that's with the adults should also be invested into the children. And you can expect a fruit or a harvest of your children, such as yourself, right? And you
Yep.
talked about how your parents were serving and doing things, and now you're doing those things. Well, I think it all has to do with the environment that you're in, the community that you have, the relationships that you forge, such as the long-term relationships that you share. And it's cool because it goes into my next point, which is about the group associations that you have, right? And so, you know, you talked about the binge, you talked about your other friend, I think his name was Trey. You said
Yep.
Trey,
Mm-hmm.
Trey, right? And so I also know you're a part of other groups as well that probably came from the church. I'm thinking about Lost Boys, right? But like, what were the benefits, if you will, were of the groups that you found yourself in through the life that you've lived so far?
Yeah, so I was, man, it's crazy. Like music just obviously penetrates me from because producer, all of it.
There it
But
is.
at the church, our current senior pastor,
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Brian,
Woo-hoo.
he founded a music label, Sound Right. And so as a
Mm,
kid, I was always just chasing after that, like chasing after them, trying to be under them, trying to soak up as much as I can.
mm,
And I was able to find like a Pastor Gamage, Terrence Gamage, which, you know, is phenomenal guy.
mm-hmm.
I worship Pastor now, which is Pastor Very.
Mm,
She was part of that group. Being able to just get in that area,
yeah,
um, also helped me, you know, a few years later down the line, they brought in a Sean and Jock
yeah.
as producers.
Bakers,
Uh,
man.
Baker's Men.
Everybody had a name. You know what I'm
Everybody had
saying?
a name. Everybody had a
Everybody had
name.
a
Yep. Sean with the braids. That's what I remember. Sean
throwback.
with the braids. And so and so as a when they brought them in, I was in I believe in high school at that point.
Mm,
And so I'm up here at the church because my mom was working in our academy. So I'm up here at the church. I'm with Sean, just listening to his sessions, listening to producing, not thinking that I was gonna be a producer down the
mm,
line. Like not at all. I went
mm,
with Sean to try to work on an album. And
mm-hmm.
then years later down the line, I'm over here producing with him now. Um,
Wow.
which is a crazy. But it's
Full
just that
circle.
association where
Mm-hmm.
I got with Sean and Jock, really started to get into the studio. From there, me, Daniel, and David started getting close because we all started to get into the studio together. Um, but even then, fast forward before that, Sean and Jock was working on an album with three artists from Georgia. They were called
Mm,
MOT,
mm,
which
wow.
which made up of L9, Bazzy
Mm,
Rocket, and LA. There's only
mm.
one that still keeps their name to this day, which is LA. Uh,
Hello. Okay. Okay.
um, one goes Spazzy Rocket now goes by Xavier Omar, and then
Okay.
L9 goes by Freeman.
There it
And
is.
so me and Freeman started to get really close, and now we
Mm,
have a whole label together, Forever
yep.
Free.
Yep.
Um, and so it's just crazy how you go from one dynamic, and then it goes to the
Mm,
nets where it's literally a pinball of just relationship and community.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if Pastor Brian would have never founded Sound Right, would I have Forever Free right now? Like I don't know. Like I have to credit that because they were able to bring in they were able to bring in Mark and the whole crew during that sound right era. And then now I'm able to produce. We have clothing, like we able to do life together.
Yep.
And that's just one area where I was able to flourish, right? Being a part of our youth drama team, like there's so many relationships that came out of there where I have close relationships with a lot of the ladies that are ministering on our dance team. We had such a close group, and that we're able to speak life and realness with each other, even with it being the opposite sex. Because I feel like a lot of people stray away from having opposite sex friends, relationships, where because they feel like it's always gonna go to a whole nother level. Which life was life, and some of them did, but it's not all. Truth be told, some of them did. But I can't say we all still remain friends to this day.
Nice.
And even with spouses and all, it's just bringing them into the community that we built. And so being able to go from different areas, man, it's so many different groups that I went through. Because even as a artist, I was in a group during our middle school years called Frontline New Generation. Like this was, man, yeah.
Okay.
Dated, right. It's
Okay.
dated. Like we used to we used to do acts with the youth choir, but we did have our own situation. And one of my brothers, AJ, man, he's doing so well for himself. He has his own clothing line right now that's doing phenomenal. And we just being able to see each other's lives grow. And Desiree, she was part of Desiree Williams. She was a part of it. Desiree Rickey. So she was a part of it, and we're just able to really still invest in each other's lives. Maybe we may not be as close, but those relationships still built to where we are now.
No,
and
that's good.
I can say if it wasn't for those relationships, we don't know how to treat relationships now. Like you would foster new relationships if you don't take care of your current relationships or previous relationships. How are you fostering your new relationships? Like I think it's a journey of understanding how relationships work. And it's not you got to talk to them every day, but it's still being able to connect even when there's time in between. And
I love that. I love that. And so even with that, how do you feel like the relationships that you've had affected the behavior that you've lived?
And so I feel that you are, I know it sounds cliche, but you are a product of your environment. At the time, I mean, we all were going through life, definitely with the ones that I was growing up with. We were all growing up at the same time. But the most important thing is we were growing up at the same time within the church, in a church that not only put emphasis on the youth, but started to develop outlets for the youth. Which in my high school years, that's when the marching band started. We Reverend Truth Ministries. We have our Marty Marching Lions, part of our Embracing Legacy. And so
spoken like a true alumni. I heard that.
And so like you develop different outlets. And so even through while you're going to high school, because high school is wild times, everybody knows you go through a lot of different things. Peer pressure is real. Let nobody tell you different. Peer pressure is real. The folks that are at your high school don't always have the best intentions for you, even if you may have a good heart.
True.
So during that time, the ministry, having friends within the ministry allowed me to stay grounded because I understood what true friendship was already. I understood how to react based upon what I'm being taught in our youth programs. And it allowed me to really discover who I am in a safe space because I always had my family at RTM that's gonna have my back no matter what. And so even though there are several of us that have like gone out, done some wild stories.
Okay. It
You know what
happens
I'm
to us
saying?
all.
It happens to us all. We have
Uh-huh.
some wild stories, and it's just us feeding off of each other. But at the end of the day, what we have cultivated was a relationship and a friendship
Mm,
that was still centered to God.
okay.
Even if we may drifted away and was doing some crazy stuff, there's gonna be somebody in the group that's gonna tell us, hey, we need to shift our focus, get back focused. And I
Mm,
think that's important, is to be able to have a group where it may not be everybody at the same time,
mm-hmm.
being able to recognize it, but at least somebody. And it may change in seasons, in
Mm,
different
mm-hmm.
seasons. It's going to be a different person that's going to be able to say, hey, let's shift our focus back to why we actually are friends. Like, let's be
Mm,
real. The reason we're friends, because we have this central belief in a God that can do everything, all things, unfailing.
mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
from there, we were able to find other like likings,
Yeah.
other similarities,
Yeah.
and be able to build from there. And so I think
Mm,
that's super important, is when you surround yourself with like-minded people. No matter where you are on your journey, they're gonna always able to tell you, hey man, you might want to tether back to
mm.
the root.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, that's good. That's good. And so, you know, in the vein of talking about relationships, I had to
Yeah.
hit this point. For those that don't know, yes, JT is 30 years old now. However, JT, in his 30 years of living, he was a married man, right?
Yes.
And amongst being married, he was separated and now is divorced from his wife. And so, walk me down that journey, right? In a sense where your parents are still together. For how many years have your parents been married?
Oh man, I should know this because their
Hmm.
anniversary was just last month. Oh man,
Hmm.
I want to say it's 27. I want to say it's
27
27 years.
years.
I want
Beautiful,
to say
beautiful. And
27 years.
so, shouts out to the kids. I feel like kids, you should know how long your parents been married. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because that's a testament, knowing that that's not always the case. And so, your parents been married for 27 some odd years. You grew up in a church where marriage was not only promoted, but it was displayed. Our
Yep.
pastors were married, right? Pastor Poe and Pastor Deborah were married before he transitioned for some 30 plus years, if not 40, but yeah, some 30 plus years. And now our current pastors have been married now 13 years. So
Yep.
it's shown before us. And so, you did what you saw to be true. And, your situation didn't work out the way you thought it would, right? But
Mhm.
first of all, how old were you when you were married? Let's start there.
I got married at 20 years
Married
old.
at 20.
At
Wow. 10
20.
years ago today, you were
Yep.
saying, I do.
Yep.
Wow. And so, where'd you meet
It's
her? Let's talk
what's
about that.
crazy is it almost about another month. So, but
There it is.
I met her at the church.
Wow. Was she
Yep,
a part
yep.
of one of the groups
He
or?
wasn't a part of the group. We met through kind of a friend of the family.
Okay.
Some of the individuals that I
Mm-hmm.
that I know from the marching band.
Nice.
And so we met there.
Yeah.
It was crazy. We met at I hope Delani watches this because it
I'll send her
was
this
at
clip.
it was at her I don't know if it so her a couple of our friend groups have birthdays like right in a row, like
Okay.
back to back dates. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly whose birthday party it was, or if it was
Mm-hmm.
just a combination of everybody's birthday party. But we met there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we actually like really actually talked. And then
Mm.
I was doing the Rico Suave thing, and I was like, hey,
Okay.
I work at Busch Gardens. Like, you want to go to Busch Gardens? like,
That was the pickup
like,
line? That was the
that
intro?
was it. That was it, man. That was it. I mean, it was
Wow.
more conversation, but it was like, hey, we should
Okay.
hang out. I can't. You ever been to Busch Gardens? Because she wasn't from here. She wasn't from Tampa. She wa-
Okay.
so
So
she
it was
she was from
really something that she would want to do.
right, because you never been to Busch Gardens. They're like,
I'm
I can
with
get
you.
us free tickets. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Mm.
I'm looking like I'm a baller, but I'm not really. What?
It was free.
Nah. It was free. It was free, but I'm looking like it.
That's it.
That's. Um, and so then we went to Busch Gardens, and fast forward, then which I feel like this is a vital, important part of the story, so that everybody can understand everybody's, journeys are different.
Yeah.
And so, we found out that she was pregnant, with my son. And from there, at that moment, even before then, which a lot of people may not agree with it, but in my mind, I was always like, nah, man, I'm gonna marry you regardless. Like, I'm gonna marry you regardless. And then we found out, I was like, all right, well, I guess to speed up the timeline. In my mind, I'm like, this just speeds up the timeline. Of course, you tell your parents that, they were like, we don't even know her. Like, you barely even, your introduction was, yeah, she got a little somebody in there. Like, and so, I mean, they still
Wow, wait,
will.
whoa. So if I heard you correctly, your introduction to your parents of her was that, hey, she's pregnant.
Yes.
That was their first introduction of her?
Yep.
Wow, just to even like soak on that thought, how impactful that probably was for your parents, right?
Right.
Like, not even knowing that you're dating, not even having an understanding of who she is, but hey, parents, not only am I with somebody that I'm okay with spending my life with, but she's carrying life within her.
Right. Because at this time, I wasn't living at the house, and so it was me.
Wow.
But
So even before that part, how was that with your parents? Like, did it hurt your parents' relationships with you, or was it, how was that?
I definitely can say my parents were hurt. They were definitely hurt. Definitely we're having further conversations after the fact. Understanding that, it definitely did hurt them, that not only I wasn't conversating about who I was with. Now I'm kind of forcing this person in their lives, in a way. I won't say forced, but it kind of was, because I was still, I was 19 when I found out. I was 19 when I found out. Turned 20 when he was actually here, but
Gotcha.
and so in the sense, I was still a kid, even though I was
Correct.
being
You're an
self-sufficient, and
adult, correct.
I was doing my own. They weren't paying my bills or anything like that. But at the end of the day, now that we have a whole child that's about to come, there was going to be a lot more help that I was going to need from them. And so I feel like,
It's froze on us.
Oh, there
You were
it is.
saying, okay, boom. You were talking about needing help from them.
Okay. So yeah.
Oh,
there it goes. Boom. It look like it's me.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Yep, I got you.
Okay.
You're talking
All
about
right.
you were doing your thing, but then help from them.
Yes. And so man.
Oh, why I want to hate on us now? Don't hate on us now.
Internet.
Don't hate on us now. We over here being great. All right.
Right. But yeah, I was just needing help from them, and looking back, I can see how that definitely could have hurt, because now they had to shift and move things from probably their plans to be able to help and assist. Because they definitely want to be supportive. And they were definitely supportive throughout the whole journey, even me, even the wedding and everything. I know sometimes some parents can be very like, if I don't,
that's your
agree,
thing.
I'm not gonna. So that's your thing, and you did this, you made it. Like, you go figure it out. But no, they were definitely supportive and everything. And so I know that definitely shifted things. And then we're still working through all of it.
Nice.
It's still a lot. We're working through it.
So then, to the point of boom, you all get married at 20 after finding out you all have a son. And how long were you all married? Let's start there.
We were married 4.5 years.
Gotcha. And so then when the separation took place, how did that affect you as a man? How did that affect you as a individual? Because there could be others, right? But even to like helping us to understand where you were at that point, but not only just at that point, how you were able to get out of that point, but then even to put us in the space of where you were. How many kids did you all have? You were what, 24 years old, and had to come to this realization that what I thought was forever was actually wasn't. This was a
Yeah.
temporary occasion, some would say. And like how where were you mentally and how did you overcome?
Yeah. So at the time we had 4 kids.
Mm,
Our youngest, which were twins, were just about 1 years old at that time, I believe.
mm,
Um, yeah, it was just shortly after their 1 year old birthday.
wow.
Um, but at the time, which I guess that first probably the first year, it was more so about trying to figure out how to make it, not just make it work, but try to honestly try to get her back, right? Like it was more of
Okay.
those. Like
Mm,
I'm seeking God, trying to figure out things.
mm-hmm,
I'm reading all different type of examples in the Bible, trying to just figure stuff
mm,
out. Um, and then but then I came to the realization, like, oh no, this is it. Like
this is it.
this is what it
Mm,
is. Um, and then at that moment, once I started to let it sink in,
mm-hmm,
that's when like depression kicked in.
mm.
Um,
Because even as
honestly,
you're talking, right, there's a key point that if you weren't listening, you might have missed it. However, this separation occurred not because you wanted it or because of what something that you may have done, which is usually the case in
right.
marriages, right? The man does a thing, and then the woman goes. However, no, she asked for this, and
Yeah.
therefore you all did this. And to even from there was like, no, like a year on, I'm gonna try to get her back. My goal is to get her back. I'm reading things, I'm praying, and all those things to the point of realization that no, this is not gonna be. And now you're saying you were at a point of depression and such.